My late father's boyhood friend asked me if I had heard of wild olives. And of course, I knew about olive oil. I knew nothing about wild olive oil.
Right.
And I think at the time, no one actually did. I didn't know they existed. And, we won't go into the Greek slang terminology, which I'm sure you're well aware of. And he said to me, of course they exist. I'll send you some stuff, have a look and come back to me. It's pretty hard to believe that these trees self-pollinate in the mountains in Greece. The best example I can give is a bird eats an olive from a cultivated tree. And birds fly naturally to the top of the mountains. They don't eat the pip, they drop it. And it grows. And, people say, well, how can it grow? Greece is, for me, is a heaven. They've got the best weather, the best food.
Yeah, you never have a bad meal in Greece. Don't tell everyone.
Everyone knows.
Everyone knows.
I might be biased, but everyone knows. You then realise how these things grow, because if the same thing happened here down in Oz, they won't grow. There's no wild olive trees in Australia. In actual fact, there's no wild olive trees in the rest of the world. And we'll talk about
anywhere
it.
else?
No.
I'm a herbalist. From understanding where something grows regionally, you take that and you put it somewhere else, the properties change because it's not the same environment.
Yeah,
so you're never going to get.
Yep.
But that's self-sufficient.
I get questions all the time. Do you water? What do you fertilise with? All we do is hand pick the olives. They get put in the old school Hessian sacks. They go straight to the factory, and the whole olive pipinol goes into a pressing system like normal olives
like
use. We use a separate olive mill, and out comes this truly liquid gold. It's a medicine.
So for the person listening that's going, okay, I hear this vineyard or whatever we call it, orchard.
Yep.
What is the benefit? Okay, other than the fact that it's self-sufficient and it's in its natural environment, what does that translate to when we're talking about the
olive
actual
oil.
product itself and olive oil?
Okay, so the word polyphenols is starting to be talked about.
Thrown around everywhere now.
We've started talking about it more in Australia now, and for the simple facts that's just the way olive oil's gone. I'll take you back probably 60 years ago when my grandparents came out, and we're in a suburb in Richmond. To find olive oil, they had to go to a chemist and buy 500 mils. That speaks volumes, that olive oil was so rare and medicinal that they had to go and buy 500 mils.
From the chemist.
I remember my grandfather telling me this story, and he said to me, I slick my hair with this stuff. What's 500 mils going to get me? And he lived till 93.
Wow.
Going from that to what olive oil became, this commercialised, high volume, not medicinal whatsoever, not great tasting, all over the world. Not
big
just
business though.
Yeah, that's right.
Big business.
Not just in Australia, everywhere in the world, to then doing a full 360 back to 50, 60 years ago, where people are now saying it needs to be recognised for what it is.
Right.
I'll self-proclaim that I think I was the first one talking about polyphenols in Australia. People might call my bluff, but I don't think so.
So for those that don't know, what are polyphenols?
So polyphenols are the molecules within olive oil that give the medicinal reading. The major marker is oleocanthal, right? So your average Australian extra virgin olive oil, the reading goes anywhere from 200 milligrams to I think the highest I've seen is 500 milligrams per kilogram.
And the higher the better.
The higher the better. Our wild olive oil reads at 2,000 plus milligrams per kilogram, pending the season. Right? So this year I think we read at about 1,800. Last year we read at about 2,100 milligrams per kilogram.
And does it just depend on the crop and the year?
Well, with us it's godsend. We can't control that.
Right.
We might be able to cultivate a little bit earlier because wild olives are cultivated very unripe and very small. You see a wild olive, like the tree, it's about a third of the size of a normal, or even a quarter of the size of a normal olive, but it's out of our hands. So if we cultivate a little bit earlier, we then got to find that balance of, is it going to be too bitter?
Right.
So this year we cultivated a little bit earlier. We got a similar reading. I like the taste because I love true, pure olive oil, but I often get, hey, it's a little bit strong. Sort of like when Manuka honey tastes different to honey. It's because of the medicinal polyphenols, the content.
And for those that are listening that don't really understand, it's the higher the reading, generally, correct me if I'm wrong, the more of a sensation. It's quite peppery.
Yeah, so there's this common misconception that if it makes you do that it's rancid. I'm here to dispel
rancid smells different.
Yeah, I'm here to dispel a few myths. So I've got olive oil at home from my groves that is 6 years old and it's not rancid.
Right. You can smell rancid.
I haven't come across an olive oil in my time, ever since I was a kid, that has actually gone off.
My bottle sitting here is 2.5 years old.
It does not go
and
off.
it didn't smell any different.
We've got to put best before on that because it is best before because slowly and gradually the polyphenol content in oleocanthal decreases. But when you're starting at such a high level, it's still going to be better after 2 or 3 years than what you're going to find on a supermarket shelf.
And so what are some of the things that we would want, or we know the benefits are medicinal, but what are the sort of things are we talking about that it actually then treats or helps to treat?
I don't want to make any claims.
No.
I'm not here to make claims.
In general sense though.
Yeah. And I don't want anyone to think that I'm on this journey to replace Nurofen or anything like that, because I'm not.
Of course.
So we work with some of the greatest professors in the world that test 30,000 samples a year, right? That's how I truly know that what we're working with is the only scientifically proven wild olive oil in the world. And that's the other thing to mention. So our oils, even our white bottle, so our early harvest, which does come from cultivated trees, that's got a medicinal polyphenol content of 1,000 milligrams per kilogram. 1,000 to 1,200.
Okay, so that's still high.
Very high. So it's about 5 times the average of Australian olive oil. And that tastes ripper. You'd think because it's olive oil from Greece that it's got medicinal benefits, but tasting it, it's so flowery because of the variety it comes from. You wouldn't think, oh, okay, this has got so much more medicinal benefit than, say, I don't know, a cobra mistake. Right? Or Grampians. Per se. There has been tests and analysis and real-life tests on humans, real humans with real issues, cancer, prostate, thyroid, and the list goes on. What olive oil is being known to do is it mops up your free radical bad cells, but it doesn't affect the good cells, which is the perfect medicine for inflammation, for everything. And we know that inflammation is the beginning cause of every disease. Having 20 mils a day, now I probably have 750 mils a day.
That's okay. You practice what you preach. We love that.
Well, we get baptised with it.
Yeah, there you go.
So
you do.
It keeps the devil away, they say. Minimising that bad stuff is only going to help in everything in a general sense. So they've tested
and there's no dangers either. I think that we're talking about food as medicine. So I think that's
100%.
Really important to...
Well, you eat it.
Absolutely. But it's very interesting how the minute we start to talk about food as medicine, people start to fear something interacting with something else or having a negative effect. And I'm like...
Yeah, well, I guess what people don't realise is that, and Southern Europeans and especially the east coast of Australia, I guess I can say this because I am a wog, the main ingredient in the Mediterranean diet is olive oil. Now, can we live the Mediterranean diet like they do in places in blue zones like Icaria or Sardinia we spoke about before? I think there's a lot more that goes into their lifestyle than just the diet, and we can't live that life in Australia.
No, we can't.
But what we can do is make conscious choices and try and practice it as best as we can.
Yeah.
Whether that's through diet, a siesta, stress levels when it permits a
all
siesta.
All of the above.
So that's all been linked to anti-dementia, anti-cancer, anti-arthritic, anti-inflammation, hair, skin, nails, gut health, the list goes on.
Right.